right, folks, today we are going to talk my favorite subject, and that is pork. And specifically in this case, pork belly. Now, if anybody's gone back and watched when we did the whole hog butchery on how you can do it at home, without a doubt our most popular video, there were several cuts that I left for a later time. Now, the pork belly was one of those. And the reason being that I had every intention at the time to make a cold smoker along with William and be able to do this stuff properly. Well, as time would have it and as things pan out here, we don't have a cold smoker. We can't get one done in time, I'll put it that way. We got so many other things going on because remember, we're still building this place from the ground up. But we're going to be working on the regular smoker out there that we got the other day. Now, some of the things that are going to go on it, believe it or not, are going to be this. These are, just to give you a basis of comparison, these are beef ribs. As you can see, considerably larger than the pork ribs I have here. And in addition to that, some of what we're going to show you today is what to do with this pork belly. Now, some of this is actually going to go in the smoker with that. That's another thing altogether. So it's been freezing for about 5 months. This is just one of 4 giant packages. Now, each one of these bad boys is about 15 pounds. First thing I'm going to do is take it out and I'm going to let it thaw. Now, inside there, just for those that are just tuning in right now, remember that when we do this, we always wrap it in plastic first, or plastic wrap, whatever. We always hit it with plastic wrap and then hit it with the butcher paper. It's going to ease up on that freezer burn, especially if you're leaving it long term. So this whole side was basically this long, this whole pork belly. It was about that long. And I cut it into thirds and stacked them up on each other, and that's where we have them. It's easier to cure that way. It's easier to work with, easier to store, at least in my view, at least when you have classic or regular freezers. So all we're going to do is let this sucker thaw out for a little while. We're not going to let it get totally thawed, but just enough to take the pieces, the 3 pork belly pieces, away from one another. So with that said, we'll get on to work. We'll let this thaw out and then we'll come back to it. All right, here we are. A few hours later than I've really intended, but anyway, here's the pork belly I was talking about. It was all stacked up for storage, so all these were basically on each other. Let it thaw out quite a bit. And had this been on the pig still, this is about how it would, well, not quite like this, but you get the point. Your ribs, or these St. Louis style ribs that I didn't quite square off, they would be attached to your pork belly. We just basically cut them loose, and there you go. Okay, if I wanted all of this to be bacon, I would just, to make it fit in this bag, I'd just basically cut each one down the middle. Only problem with that is I'm going to have a lot of excess fat on the sides, which isn't necessarily a bad thing because this bacon, folks, is the cat's meow. This isn't, when you do it at home, you're able to add everything you know. You're all about the quality here. You raised this animal right, you processed it right, hopefully, and then you're to the point where, okay, now I can add some value to this stuff. And in our case today, since I'm running the smoker anyway, I'm going to do some smoked pork belly, and I'm also going to do some bacon. And I'm going to show you the bacon. I'm going to have to show you the conclusion of 12 days from now, because that's how long it takes. And I'll get into more of that in a minute. So this first one, and it's easier for me to work with this, believe it or not, with a bread knife. I'm going to end up trimming off some of this end. In fact, in this one, look at that. Looks like one giant piece of bacon. I'm just going to take this one because I'm not all that concerned about it all. This bread knife, it's a little frozen in the middle, so that's part of the problem. Okay, these two, they're going to be bacon, okay? So we'll put those in a Ziploc eventually. This one here, it's going to be bacon because I like how it's squared off. It's going to make sense. This one isn't quite so squared off, so I'm going to take part of this because, like I said, I'm running this grill out there. I'm going to take part of this. I'm going to take about half of it, let's say. And I am going to do straight up smoked pork belly on the grill. And there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. Actually, it's going to be on the smoker out there, and I'll show you how that works out. So we'll take this half. It's going to go, this part's going to be pork belly that we're going to put on the smoker. And it is going to be the cat's meow. I'll just trim it up a little bit and we'll be rocking and rolling. This one, same deal here. This is going to be bacon. Kind of running out of real estate here. Okay, so this is all going to be bacon. This is going to be my pork belly. So folks, I'm going to put this off to the side. Now what I need to do with my recipe, it's kind of important that I know how much I have here. I started out with 15 pounds. I cut this off. I'm just going to stick this over here for now, and then we're going to weigh this stuff. All right, so I'm going to show you my easy way of doing this. So we got brown sugar, kosher salt, black pepper, and maple syrup. And like I said, at the end of the day, all you need is this salt. So I'm going to show you the easy recipe that I've devised. This is my own way of doing it. You can do it your own way, but this is the easy way. So for every pound, I'm going to put 1/8 of a cup of brown sugar. Okay? Now I could sit here and count this out 12 times, or I could just go ahead and take a cup, get a cup and a half. I'm a little tired, so hopefully, okay, there's 1 cup. Doesn't have to be perfect, y'all. And I need a little bit more than that. Call that a cup and a half, right? Brown sugar, we'll just put that off to the side. So we start with 1/8 of a cup for every pound. Now, when it comes to kosher salt, it's gonna be a tablespoon for every pound. So here we go. Okay, so there we are on that. Now your black pepper. And this is my recipe. You don't have to do it this way. So for every pound, I'm gonna use 1 teaspoon of black pepper. I'm just gonna take this baby little whisk here, work this over a little bit, just kind of get that mixed up. Some people like to use pickling salt, or not pickling salt, but pink salt, or the nitrates and the nitrates. I don't see any reason for doing it. I really don't. Not when, and I try to do things as old school as possible. So were they using it back in the day? Yeah, maybe. But back in the day, they were using just straight up salt. And that was all they were using. Now, this stuff, before it becomes bacon, it's on its way to becoming pancetta. Now it's basically bacon that's not been smoked, okay? That's it in a nutshell. Here's where it gets, this is how easy it is, folks, making homemade bacon, okay? I'm gonna take this cure here, get rid of my little whisk there. And all I'm gonna do is sprinkle this stuff on there as liberally as possible. And I'm gonna work it in all the way around, even on the sides. That's part of the cure. I got, what you don't see is probably not in frame right now, but I'm gonna take this and basically stick it back here and then go on to the next one. This is as high end as you're ever gonna find good bacon. I was just looking online just to see what some folks are charging out there, and for heritage breed pork, which this is, man, some folks are charging somewhere in the neighborhood of $15 to $20 a pound. So folks, think about it. How expensive is, if you think about it, how expensive is kosher salt? Pretty darn cheap, right? How expensive is pepper? You know, and the other ingredients you need. So if you can do this at home and get yourself pork belly somewhere, it's going to be your best way of going about this. Everything's been set up. And this other part is another little added thing I do. You don't have to. It's not even going to make sense in this brine. Now there's a wet method, there's a dry method. This is a dry method. I like it more. People that like the wet method, they have as many reasons for liking it that way as I like it doing dry. Okay, I'm just going to take this and I'm going to stick it in this gallon bag right here. Okay, I got 2 in this bag. You know, a lot of people like to put 1 in each bag. It really doesn't matter. And in a few days, you'll see why. Now, the last part I put in here is the maple syrup. And as far as how much you put in there, is completely up to you. Now, it's dry as a bone right now. And that's going to change. Because every single day, I'm going to basically put all these guys on a quarter sheet pan that's sitting right here. And I'm going to stick it out in one of the other refrigerators. It's going to sit like that, right? For a day. And every single day, just once a day, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to flip it. I'm going to do one of these numbers. And then I'm going to flip it. Now, folks, keep in mind, it's dry as a bone here, right? Now, the total time on this curing is going to be 9 days the way I do it. Some people go up to 11 or 12. I find that 9 is sufficient. And as this stuff makes its liquid along the way, that's when it's going to marry up with some of this maple. Now, keep in mind, folks, this is not the bacon you want to fry in a pan. You're definitely, in fact, I think no matter the bacon, it always comes out better when it's baked anyway, for a whole bunch of reasons. So I'm just going to take this, stick it on this quarter sheet pan, stick this out in the fridge, and like I said, every single day for the next 9 days, I'm just going to turn it one time. And then we'll pick that part up after that. Okay, so this is ready to go into the fridge. It's going to start curing, and I'm going to show you what's going to happen with that other pork belly. All right, so here's the other end now. Like I said, I got the smoker going out there. It's time to give it its maiden voyage. I got this pork belly. Oh, shoot, I think I left one of these out. Okay, so I got a little more than I intended. I was wondering why I had so much leftover rub. So I got 2 of these that are pork belly. And one of the coolest things I ever had was banh mi made out of the pork belly. It was the coolest sandwich ever. Some of these ribs that we got off the pig that we processed. And then, of course, some beef ribs here. There's really nothing to this, folks. I mean, it's really as simple as I'm just going to take this rub. This is one I put together, and I use it for pretty much everything. Beef, pork, it doesn't matter. So because I'm doing it on the grill, this is basically the pork belly. This is just one of many different ways you can go about it. Remember, if you've got ribs, folks, I mean, I don't know if your butcher will do it for you, but if you saw us process that whole pig, that membrane that's in there, we always take it off at the time of processing. I never did understand the reason why anybody ever left it on in the first place. And one of the things that drives me crazy when it comes to barbecue is when people don't take the time to take that off. It's not a pleasant experience. And honestly, it seems like it's lazy to me. I know some places do it on purpose, but I always thought that it was kind of a lazy thing to do to not get rid of that. So this pork belly is going to look a lot like burnt ends, and anybody from the Kansas City area will know immediately what those are, even though it doesn't come from it doesn't come from pork, and B, it definitely doesn't come from the belly. That's a whole nother story unto itself. But anyway, it's going to look a lot like burnt ends, but it's not going to be. It's basically pork belly, and it's going to be fabulous. All right, we'll let this stuff sit. Let me go out there, check the grill, and then the next stop is from here to the grill. Here we are in this smoker. I got to take it for its maiden voyage, and it's right at the temperature I want it to be. So all I'm going to do is stack everything up here. All right, so this is off and running. Open up my little stack there a little bit. Check my smoke. So now it's just a waiting game because I'm not quite sure on how this thing works yet. I'm gonna have to watch it a little bit. And also my little puppy, Milk Boy. Hey, Milk Boy. Come here. He's out here waiting for some barbecue too. Ain't that right, Milk Boy? Hey, come here. Come here, boy. All right, here we are, a few hours later. Pork belly's done, beef ribs are done, pork ribs are done, and my smoked potato salad's done. And folks, the key to this is in the old smoker I would let the meat drippings fall onto the potatoes, and then once they were cooked and smoked and soaked up all the awesome juices coming off this meat, it makes for a pretty awesome potato salad. Now, it did smoke well. This is a whole different video unto itself. Maybe I'll show that in the summer sometime. Okay, but the star of the show today is obviously the pork belly. And the best sandwich, folks, just so you know, the best sandwich I've ever had in my life was a banh mi sandwich at the Pig Witch in Kansas City, and it was fantastic. So basically, the way I understand it, the way they did it, they smoked that pork belly, and look at the bark on this thing. It looks fantastic. Take a look at that. I've already cut it. So all you can do at this point, if this is something you want to replicate, just cut off like I did, slice it up. If you want, hit it with the rub again, stick it back in there, kind of like the way you would do burnt ends. And then you can make a pretty bomb sandwich out of it. Fantastic. The only downside is that the ribs aren't as tender as I like because I'm still kind of learning. I didn't let them go near as long. I'm still kind of learning the ropes on this new smoker out there, but I'm a lot further along than I ever thought I would be. So if you wind up in a position like I'm in, I can basically stick them back in that oven, put them on about 200, and I'll be cool. But folks, I mean, this is a winner for the most part. I mean, I can't complain. Got my potato salad, got the vegetable course in there in the form of celery. Got my smoked pork belly, which William's gonna absolutely destroy when he gets home. Got all the ribs, got all the wonderful things, folks. This is the cool thing about growing your meat at home, producing everything at home, preserving it at home. It tastes light years better, folks. So until next time, this is Billy, the Permaculture Pimp Daddy, where PIMP stands for permaculture is my passion. And growing awesome pork to have ribs like this is part of the reasons why. We'll see you next time.